Okay, so we're gonna go over two different types of bench press today. Just our regular strength bench press, and then what we call more of a dynamic bench press. So if you have bands for the dynamic one, this is the time when I would use it. For the strength one, you can always add accommodating resistance if you have access to chains. Don't necessarily need that though, okay? So for the strength one, we're gonna be doing setting up, okay? Feet, back. I like to keep my heels on the ground the whole time, okay? So make sure those heels are flat, keeping that core tight. A lot of times people's feet are coming off the ground. We don't want that to be the case. We're sitting all the way back, keeping that back flat, okay? Core nice and tight. For me, I'm finding a nice spot that's comfortable for me. If I'm looking at my shoulders, I'm probably about a hand outside of my shoulders, okay? Pulling down, touching the chest, pausing just for a second, coming back up. Making sure we're having that control all the way down to the bottom, okay? So again, my feet are back a little bit, driving those heels down, sitting back, trying to push that low back flat, hands right outside of my shoulders, pushing up, nice and controlled, pause. And back up. What I don't want to be seeing you do is arch your back, or having those feet come off the ground as we're trying to push up or anything like that, okay? For number two, the dynamic one, if you have pins or something, you can go ahead and rope a band around. I'll show you the bands I'm talking about here. So if your gym has access to these types of bands, you can loop it around the bottom, loop it around the top right there. I would start off decently light, even if you're benching quite a bit of weight, trying to get a band tension where it's like 10 to 20 pounds on each side. Really what you're gonna be doing is this is trying to slow you down as you're coming up with some power, okay? So if you don't have bands, that's fine. It just might kind of pull you up off the bench a little bit. What we're thinking is we're starting at the top, and I'm pulling the bar to me, not necessarily bouncing it off my chest. So I like to think about stopping it right before I hit my chest, change directions, come back up. If I'm doing this properly, I want to hear that bar rattle at the bottom, right? Because I'm changing directions so quick, you get that little bit of that rattle. Same setup, just thinking speed. Those first two are a little shallow. Last one I try to go down a little bit deeper, barely touch my chest. So that's kind of that ideal range you want. Again, if you have the bands, for me it's much easier to do this with bands because I feel like I'm pressing against something that's getting harder as I'm going up. So I'm not necessarily pulling myself off the bench. So I feel like I can get a little bit more speed, okay? I'll put the percentages in here for our dynamic. You're gonna be going a lot lighter. This is power, okay? So power is force times acceleration. We have the force with the weight. We gotta make sure we have that acceleration too, okay? If all we have is force, we're not accelerating it fast, then we're just working strength, which is fine, but it's a different phase. So making sure you know what the emphasis is, make sure you're looking at the notes if it's dynamic or if it's strength, do what's appropriate.